That did not feel good. Wait, is this the catacombs? Well, that's handy. And they're full of worms. Awesome.
Hey everybody, Andrew the Moo here, and we're in another episode of Rock the Dead. And in this episode, we're going to kind of get a better idea of what we're dealing with and how we go from one end of the spectrum to the other. So I want to spend a little bit of time right now talking about horror movie remakes. And, you know, honestly, I can't say that every horror movie remake that is out there is trash or anything of that nature, because, you know, in the last episode I said, hey, if you get a chance to watch the new It, watch it. I will not say that that movie was bad, because that movie was actually really, really good, and I would recommend watching it, because it scared the living daylight. Well, I mean, it didn't scare the living daylights out of me, it scared the living daylights out of my wife. Wren came with me and watched it, and she wanted to see it. And you could tell, well, I could tell she was very frightened during many scenes of the movie, which, you know, many scenes of the movie were actually pretty scary, so I'm not going to fault her there. I'm not going to hold that against her, know what I mean? But anyway, I have some ought against most of the horror movie remakes that are in the world today, simply because of the fact that, man, they're just a lot of them aren't good, especially not as good as the old ones. Like, I ended up seeing the the retelling of the Michael Myers story, Halloween. And I'm going to be honest with you, I did not like it. In fact, you know, one of the things that my wife pointed out during the movie, and we both couldn't help but laugh at it, we're both studying to be professional counselors. And so she and I were paying attention, and there's a scene where Loomis, Dr. Loomis is talking to Michael Myers, and he's like, I have failed you. And my wife goes, you don't tell your patients that. That's a no-no, according to the AAMFT and the ACA. Of course, the AAMFT is like, I think it's the American Association for Marriage and Family Therapy. The ACA is the American Counseling Association. I'm actually a member of the American Counseling Association, and that's one of the big no-nos, as far as you don't tell your patient, you know, something along those lines. And that does damage to the patient. And I know right now you guys are going, this is Michael Myers we're talking about, as far as he was messed up before then. There are a couple of things I do appreciate about the movie. Like, I do appreciate the fact that they tried to get more, you know, into the backstory of Michael Myers, and they really tried to do away with a lot of the what am I looking for? The convoluted storyline they had going for Michael Myers. How they went from, like, he's just this deranged killer to somewhere around the, like, 4th or 5th movie, they're like, he's got the birthmark of the thorn on him, he's pure evil, he's going to destroy us all, you know, that sort of thing. And it got real convoluted real quick, you know, to the point where, you know, I've seen every Halloween movie, including the crappy Halloween 3, which the only mention to Michael Myers that's in Halloween 3 is like a scene of a trailer for the Halloween movie that appears. So I've seen every Halloween movie, so my wife and I go to watch the remake of Halloween done by Rob Zombie, who's, you know, has a lot to do with this game, and I figure since we're talking about Rob Zombie and this game has to do with Rob Zombie, we're talking about horror movies, things of that nature, why don't we talk about the movie done by Rob Zombie? I could not stand it. And what bothered me is, like, I'm not a fan of rape by any stretch of the imagination. And so when you have something of that nature, you know, appearing in a movie like a rape scene, you know, that's going to be an immediate turn off towards the movie, you know, for me. You know, not something that stands out to me. Of course, that triggers, or one of the things that helps trigger, you know, Michael Myers' murderous rampage. But I think what really did it for me in the end, as far as, like, is when we're introduced to Laurie Strode. You know, she is done in the most obnoxious, aggravating, and rude way, and I just went, nope, I'm tagging out. And my wife goes, what? I said, I'm not watching this. She's like, why? I said, Laurie Strode is, you know, presented as this huge jerk, and when you do that in any type of movie, I want you dead. If you have no redeeming qualities, I want you dead. And so I can't watch this.
Okay, I think I finally
We learn as you learn the weaknesses of your flesh.
Not cool, man. Not cool.
Not cool at all. So, I don't know. I watched, basically, it was the first half of the movie, and I appreciated the backstory and things of that nature.
Thanks, man.
But, I mean, just to the point where towards the end, or towards the middle of the movie, I'm just like, I can't do this anymore. No. So, for all I know, the rest of it could have been magical. My wife didn't seem to enjoy it, but anyway. Like, remakes tend to, for the most part, be really, really bad. Not all of them, mind you, not all of them. But a good many of them seem to be, like, really bad from everything that I've seen. And so, when I hear, you know, horror movie remake or based on such and such story, I generally don't want to see it. But I usually end up watching it later on anyway. For better or for worse. And that dude is like smacking the living daylights out of me. Man, you end up taking some hits in this game. You know, I thought I was going to die here, but thankfully, we're at the end of the stage. Yeah. That's usually what happens when you've got a horror movie remake. It's either going to be really, 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 really good, or it's going to be absolute trash, and more often than not, it's trash. I really wish that weren't the case, but more often than not, that seems to be true, that the movie is just going to be absolute hot garbage. Alright, so we're entering into the next stage of Crypt Keeper, and we get a wonderful long loading screen here in a moment. I probably at this point should have been editing out the loading screens to go along with it, but no. It'd be nice if I pressed the A button right now, though, wouldn't it? Yeah. And cutscene in just a second.
All right, the caves. The canyon can't be too far from here. It's almost like I know what I'm doing. I think I'm merely... Whoa!
Alright, so we've got our very next boss in this game, and it looks like, if I see it like I see it, it looks like a giant antlion, is what it is. But it kind of also has, you know, like, I see giant antlion the way it acts, but I'm also, to a degree, just going, it kind of looks like they're trying to throw off dung beetle vibes by what it's hurling at me. But this boss is like rinse, lather, repeat. You're going to end up hitting a couple of those boulders. You're going to end up doing the attacks on it, the little mini game. Then you got these bat creatures that you got to defeat. Then it's going to pop up in front of you, give you a moment before it attacks. Rinse, lather, repeat. All you got to do. So this is a relatively easy boss. Not something you should really have to worry about. Sorry about that. I had to get kind of a yawn out. It doesn't bode well. Like, he's watching the video of this and he's yawning right now. What's wrong with him? The fact that it's around 1 o'clock in the morning. Has a lot to do with that. So, I mean, I'm trying to think of other, like, remakes that I've seen, like, House on Haunted Hill. I actually talked about House on Haunted Hill with some friends of mine, and there's something about that movie that I actually... I love watching some of the 90s horrors, you know, the late 90s, early 2000 horrors, because of the fact they try to be way too over the top for their own good. Like, House on Haunted Hill was one of those, as far as like, I've got my haunted amusement park, I'm scaring people, blah, blah. And, you know, just things of that nature. Yawning again, I'm sorry. And if I remember correctly, that was the horror movie that had, like, Chris Kattan in it. Which is really weird to me that Chris Kattan would be in a horror movie. But, I actually remember it not being good, but there's something about it that I like, and I don't know why. Ooh. Yeah, and I thought I had the aiming on the right one, but apparently I was aiming on the wrong one. Ugh. But yeah, I mean, there's something about that movie that I really, really liked, and I couldn't place my finger on it. Then you had movies like Valentine, which Valentine to me was kind of meh. I'm kind of wanting to see this morbid curiosity. I think it's called Happy Death Day. Good job there, Moo. Way to get smacked in the face by the bugaboo. I think it's called Happy Death Day, and I saw that, like I saw the preview for it at the movie theater before seeing it, and I got the feeling that it's going to be one of those, like, really bad movies that it's not going to be, I mean, it's going to be kind of enjoyable, but it's going to be one of those things that I watch, and I'm like, I kind of regretted seeing this. I'm probably going to wait till it comes out, like Redbox or something of that nature, but I have interest in it. Yeah, we're about to kill the boss in just a moment. We're going to have a cutscene, so what I'm going to do is, in just a moment, I'm going to turn this over to the game, and so I'll be back in a moment.
Who's the boss now? Dude, I hope there aren't any more of those up ahead.
Nope, no more of those up ahead, but we have other things that we have to deal with here shortly. So, I'm just going to go ahead and say, like, I think I said this at the beginning of this one, I don't remember, but we're going to end up, like, going from one end of the spectrum to the other. And so, we'll be able, I mean, we've already done it, but we're going to be doing it more so within the next few episodes. To Mary Beth, we must save her. Another cutscene.
Maybe it wasn't the swiftest idea to come through the graveyard, what with the zombie ex-teachers, the ginormous spiders, the leeches, but no, that was just plain dumb. This'll be good. I'll go in all ninja style with my 6-string, get the girl, be a hero, and sell out my records.
Yeah, go in there and sell all my records and, you know, things of that nature. So we've got just, I don't know. Horror movie remakes are just hit and miss, and I'm going to ask this, like, do you have any horror movie remakes that you like? No bonus points if you say, well, I liked it, because it was just plain good. Although if you liked it, you're more than welcome to respond with that below. It's just, good job of just getting hit, cow. Trying to remember, I was hearing the Rob Zombie song, and I'm like, which one is it, which one is it? I started talking about, oh, dude, I guess I should talk about the Halloween movies. I also read recently that Jamie Lee Curtis is going to be reprising her role as Laurie Strode in the next horror movie at the 40th anniversary of the Halloween series, because Halloween Resurrection never happened. Which I think, if I understand correctly, they're going to try to ignore that anything ever happened in Halloween. They're going to pretend in the new Halloween movie with Jamie Lee Curtis that Halloween 2, or movies from that. Hold on.
What is that? Looky what I found.
Alright, so as I was saying, they're going to pretend that the movies from like 3 till Halloween H2O, and you know, or yeah, that the only ones after Halloween 2 that occurred, I think, is like H2O, because actually Halloween H2O was pretty good as far as I can remember. I do remember like seeing an interview as far as like I think it was Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Blah, I'm like Joseph, blah blah. Joseph Gordon-Levitt was doing an interview, I think, on Conan O'Brien, and Conan asked him, "Do you die in the movie?" And he's like, "Oh, you know, I can't really say what happens, this, that, and the other." And Conan looks at him and just goes, "Dude, it's an H2O movie. Everyone dies." And, you know, sure enough, you know, they're doing an interview with him being the fact that he's in the movie, and literally within the first, like, 5 minutes of the movie, Levitt gets his head chopped off. And I'm like, why in the world does he have, like, a big credit in this movie? Why is he doing interviews trying to push this movie? He's barely in the film. Oh, guess what we get to do in just a moment? We get to do a minecart ride. And they can barely get the words out, but we're doing a minecart ride. And the little friend, our friend Neil Patrick Harris is talking, but we're ignoring him. But yeah, that was one of the things that I always found just kind of weird. But actually, as far as like some of the later on down the line Halloween movies, that was actually pretty good, and I liked it a lot. I thought it was pretty good. But I also saw Halloween Resurrection with a friend of mine. I think it was basically the month that it came out. And I remember just going in there with almost no expectations, because I'm like, the plot synopsis is that Busta Rhymes is the host of a reality TV show. You stay the night in the haunted house without getting, you know, freaked out, and you stay there and you get a prize and things of that nature. And so, of course, like, you know, they went into the old Myers homes and people started dying one by one, and I just remember that being, like, stupid.
Easy peasy.
Like, one of the worst horror movies I've seen in a long time. And again, that was one of those I went in with no expectations whatsoever. And so I find that, you know, a lot of movies, when I go in without expectations, I'm not disappointed in the least bit. And this is one of those instances where I went in with no expectations, and in the end, I was not disappointed. You gotta love the way that I treat horror movies some days. Just like, I knew it was gonna be bad, so I didn't worry about it.
Right on.
But that's the truth of the matter. But that seems to be the way that horror movies go when they start making money. They get really convoluted, and they just start doing really stupid things with the storyline. Because of the fact, once you've killed, like, the ultimate evil 30 times over, you gotta find new ways to kill the ultimate evil of evil. And it's like, alright, it's how can we do, oh, we'll get the magical amulet of Tamaroth, Slameroth, and you've got to take the amulet, and you've got to like incantate, say the magic incantations. That's better. You got to incantate. You got to say the magic incantation, and all the while doing hopscotch. By the way, we have a new enemy. It's a lantern monster. It's like a lantern and electricity forehead. And pickaxe and all that jazz. So, I mean, I will say this is one of the more interesting and more original enemies in the game.
These critters keep getting uglier and uglier.
I don't quite understand how it works, but hey, it's not my game. I think one of the movies that did a lot of that was the...
We formulated nuisance, not of knowledge, but of destruction.
Get out of my head! This must be the right way. My guitar hasn't led me wrong yet.
I think it was like the Warlock movies that were just really bad about that, like the first Warlock movie. I think it was the first Warlock movie that took place as far as you had to have like a magical amulet to bring him back, this, that, and the other, and they needed a no, it was like the Necronomicon and all that jazz. That way, you know, you couldn't touch salt and things of that nature. By the end of the movie, you know, the protagonist took the Necronomicon and she buried it in the Great Salt Flats. As far as just, you know, that was completely buried in salt where he could not get to it. Come the very next Warlock movie, guess what? Absolutely nothing to do with the Necronomicon, the salt and all that jazz. It was just really, really bad stuff. And then at the third one, like, they had killed him like a dozen times over and then bring him back for another movie. And that's the way they do it. Like, you know, the Friday the 13th, the Nightmare on Elm Street was just as bad. And again, you know, bringing back up Halloween, I think it was like at the end of the fourth movie, they basically got a militia and just pumped Michael Myers full of lead, hit him with a grenade or a rocket launcher, something of that nature, knocked him down a well. Fifth movie, what happens? He washes downstream somehow, meets up with a kindly old man who tries to nurse Michael back to health. Michael pays him back by killing him. I mean, you know, and so that's when we really get into the garbage baloney type movie, you know, type supernatural convoluted storylines that you've got in way too many horror movies. I will say that I like a good storyline in a horror movie, and I love researching the backstories to the villains. And it's one of those where you really want these things to be played out, possibly in the movie, but in many instances you don't have time for all of that. You have just enough time for a little bit of exposition and you know, let that be it. But like, I have found that if I really like a horror movie, that I'll do a lot of research. And I know how stupid that sounds, but I will do a lookup on the horror movie villain as far as to read more about it. Because of the fact that the creators just made something that's really interesting. And I know we don't have time to talk about it now, but I think in the next episode, let's talk a little bit about some of those backstories, all right? Because we're about to have the end of the stage right here.
Gotta keep going for Mary Beth, for the world, and maybe for a burger.
Can't fault him there with the burger. I mean, burgers are awesome. Anyway, it's Andrew the Moo, and we're going to see you guys in the very next episode of Rock of the Dead. We're going to try to talk about some horror movie storylines. Later.